It's 57 BC, and the fate of northern Gaul is hanging by a thread. Julius Caesar's legions have pushed deep into hostile territory. One by one, the Belgic tribes have fallen or surrendered. But one last pocket of resistance remains. They are the Atuatuci, a fierce Belgic tribe, and they've barricaded themselves in a hilltop fortress they believe is absolutely impregnable. From their high walls, they watch the Roman army approach not with fear, but with total scorn. For the Atuatuci, this isn't a siege, it's a chance to finally break the Roman war machine. There's just one problem. Their opponent is Gaius Julius Caesar. What came next wasn't a desperate struggle, but a brutal and clinical masterclass in warfare, a show of strategy and engineering that would turn a stronghold into a tomb and send a chilling message across Gaul. This is how Roman discipline and ingenuity took apart a fortress and a people piece by piece. To really get what's happening at this siege, we need to rewind just a little. 57 BC had been a year of non-stop campaigning. Caesar marched north to take on the Belgic coalition, a powerful alliance of tribes who saw the Romans as a threat to their very existence. This all came to a head at the Battle of the Sabis, a brutal, desperate fight where Caesar's legions were ambushed and came terrifyingly close to being wiped out. Caesar managed to pull off a victory, but the battle was a grim reminder of just how ferocious Gallic warriors could be. In the chaos that followed, news of the Roman victory spread. Most tribes, realizing that another open battle was pointless, surrendered. But not to the Atuatuci. According to Caesar, they were descended from the Cimbri and Teutones, legendary tribes that had torn through parts of the Roman Republic a generation earlier. Hardened by a history of conflict, they put all their chips on one spot, a single formidable oppidum or hilltop fortress with incredible natural defenses. This place was surrounded on nearly all sides by sheer cliffs. The only way in was a narrow ridge, barely 200 feet wide, which the Atuatuci had beefed up with a high double wall and piles of heavy stones. From these walls, they watched Caesar's army arrive. They'd heard about the Roman victory over the Nervii, but they weren't impressed. Their fortress was their strength, and they believed it made them invincible. For Caesar, this was a challenge he couldn't ignore. Leaving a defiant tribe in his rear just wasn't an option. The conquest of the Belgae would only be complete when Atuatuci fell. The Roman way of besieging a city was something the Gauls had never seen before. It wasn't about heroic charges, it was slow and methodical. First, Caesar ordered his men to build a line of circumvallation, a massive ring of fortifications completely surrounding the town. His legionaries, who were as much engineers as they were soldiers, built a rampart 15 miles long and 12 feet high, dotted with forts. This monster of a construction project did two things. It trapped the Atuatuci inside with no hope of escape, and it protected the Romans from any surprise attacks. With the town sealed off, the real show began. The legionaries started building the key to the whole operation, a massive wooden siege tower. Now these weren't just crude wooden boxes. A Roman siege tower was a carefully engineered multi-story machine built right there on the battlefield. Its lower level could house a battering ram, while the upper floors were packed with archers and light artillery to clear defenders off the walls. The front was even covered in wet animal hides to protect it from flaming arrows. From their perch, the Atuatuci watched this strange wooden monster slowly take shape in the distance. And they laughed. Caesar actually wrote down their taunts. What was the purpose of setting up such a huge machine at so great a distance? With what arms, with what strength did they hope to move so heavy a tower up to the walls, especially men of such small stature? The Gauls, who were generally taller than the Romans, looked down on them with contempt. They figured this whole thing was a waste of time. They just couldn't grasp this type of cold, patient, and relentless engineering. They couldn't imagine that the tower wasn't just being built, it was being built to move. And day by day, the hammering continued as the wooden behemoth grew taller, a silent promise of the violence to come. Then the laughter on the walls stopped. The moment of truth had arrived. Using a system of levers and rollers, the legionaries started moving the siege tower forward. For the Atuatuci, this was a horrifying sight. A man-made mountain, which they'd been mocking for days, was now rumbling towards their fortress, as if moved by the gods themselves. Arrogance was replaced by pure panic. This was not a battle they knew how to fight. Before the tower even touched the walls, envoys scrambled down from the town. They threw themselves at Caesar's feet and declared that they couldn't fight against these divine methods. They would surrender. They asked for just one thing, that Caesar, who was known for his mercy, wouldn't take their weapons. They claimed their neighbours were sworn enemies and they'd be defenceless. Caesar's reply was a masterclass in psychological warfare. He said he would spare their people, as was his custom, but surrender was unconditional. No weapons. He promised to order their neighbours to leave them alone. There was no room to negotiate. The envoys went back, the gates opened, and a huge pile of weapons was thrown into the ditch below, so many that the pile almost reached to the top of the walls. The surrender looked complete. But Caesar didn't get where he was by being naive. He always anticipated betrayal. He suspected the Atuatuci had hidden about a third of their weapons. So he gave a critical order. That evening, all Roman soldiers were to pull out of the town and return to their camp. He wanted no legionaries inside the walls, to avoid any looting that might provoke the Gauls. The gates were to be shut, but only lightly guarded. To the Atuatuci, it must have looked like the crisis was over. The Romans had accepted their surrender and turned in for the night. The trap was set. In the middle of the night, the Atuatuci made their move. They stormed out of the gates, armed with the weapons they had hidden and carrying makeshift shields made from bark. Their target was a section of the Roman fortifications they thought would be easiest to attack. It was a desperate gamble, a last shot at winning back their freedom with a surprise attack. But it was a trap, and they were the ones who had walked right into it. Caesar had been waiting for this exact moment. As soon as the alarm was raised, pre-arranged fire signals lit up the Roman lines. The legionaries, who hadn't stood down at all, were already armed and waiting. They rushed to the point of attack with terrifying speed and discipline. What happened next wasn't a battle, it was a slaughter. The Atuatuci were fighting on unfamiliar ground, at the base of the massive Roman ramparts they had failed to appreciate. The legionaries had every advantage. High ground, better training, and the same discipline that had saved them at the Sabis. They met the Gallic charge with a volley of heavy javelins before drawing their swords for close quarters combat. The Gauls fought with incredible courage, but courage doesn't stop organized, professional soldiers who were expecting the attack. The fighting lasted until dawn, but the outcome was never in doubt. The Roman lines held, and the desperate assault was crushed. When the sun came up, the fight was over. The price of their gamble was catastrophic. 4,000 of their warriors were dead at the foot of the Roman walls. The survivors limped back into their now defenseless town. Caesar's offer of mercy had expired the moment they betrayed the surrender. The next day, he ordered his men to break down the gates. There was no one left to resist. To make a brutal example of them, Caesar ordered the entire surviving population of the town, 53,000 men, women, and children, to be sold into slavery. The Atuatuci, as a people, were effectively erased from history. The fall of Atuatuci was the final bloody chapter of the 57 BC Belgic campaign. Caesar had shown the tribes of Gaul that Roman power was absolute. No wall was high enough to defy the Republic's war machine. If you enjoyed diving into this battle today, hit that subscribe button and turn on notifications. It directly helps us bring you more epic military history content. Every like tells YouTube to show these stories to more history enthusiasts like you, and your comments, they're gold. They help me understand which battles, generals, and tactics you want to see next, and I'll see you in the next one.